I'd like to welcome everybody to the fifth installment of Cougars Football Weekly. I'm your host, Jeremy Salou of the Valley Independent. This week we're going to take an inside look at the Cougars Strength and Conditioning Program. I'll be joined by Strength and Conditioning Coach Greg Levander, and who will also give us an inside look into the weight room of the Cougars as they prepare for this week's game at Deer Lakes. I'd like to welcome in Coach Greg Levander, Strength and Conditioning Coach for the Cougars. First off, Coach, what are some of the traits and habits you're trying to instill into the football program here at Charleroi?
Well, Jeremy, one of the things whenever I came in here as a coach, when me and Coach Jenkins sat down, one of the things that he wanted to make sure and he stressed to me is we needed to bring in more of an off-season and an in-season strength and conditioning program. So one of my goals was to get together with him and sit down and actually put together a program that our kids could actually follow and succeed at while getting them stronger in the off season going toward the season. Then once the season started, what we wanted to do was we wanted to give the kids an opportunity to maintain what they had already built, and also to build on that, as well as helping them stave off injury, and also helping them recover from injury. So that was one of our main goals when we were putting together this program.
Okay, Coach, you guys have played four really good teams. You're 0-4, off to a rough start. How do you turn the frustration into motivation?
Well, Jeremy, when we looked at our schedule at the beginning of the season, when we sat down as coaches and we're looking at what we had in front of us, we knew what these 4 weeks were going to bring. Looking at Jeanette, who's always a contender, Wash High, who is always there, heading to Heinz Field. So we knew the challenge we had in front of us. Of course, we come out every week looking to win the game. I mean, that is the way that we approach each practice. That is the way that we approach each day in the weight room. After the 4 weeks, it has been a rough start. And one of the things that we do, that we have done, is we have a Saturday morning lift. So the kids come in, we watch some film, we go right in the weight room, and we get a nice hour and a half lift, and then the kids are free to go home. And one thing that I like to tell the kids whenever they come in there is this is your chance to put that behind you. You get in, you work hard in the weight room, you get a good sweat going, and you can actually kind of forget about what just happened the night before in the weight room. And through my career, doing some things that I've done in the weight room and in the military, one of my things is big and into motivation. So I want to make sure that the kids have a positive. So we get in, we get a nice lift. We give them lifts that they're strong in, so they can get in there and actually pound some weight, move some weight around, and feel good about what they just accomplished. Because again, motivation can be very fleeting, especially when you're getting, you're seeing what you're seeing out on the field, and you're coming up against teams that obviously have been put together. This is our first year, so when we're talking about motivation, we definitely want to have the kids leaving with something positive. So that's one thing that we try to do every Saturday morning, when in the lifting and the strength and conditioning program.
So, Coach, after 5 weeks, how has the team responded?
Well, Jeremy, if I could, what I'd like to do first is back up to what we had last year. And what happened last year was we didn't have a real organized strength and conditioning program. So, it was basically like a voluntary thing where, if the kids wanted to come, they could come. And if they didn't want to come, they didn't really have to. There was no consequences. Now, it was the same this year, but we put out there that we need to have this team in the weight room conditioning and getting stronger for the season. So, you know, when compared to last year, when there were 20 some kids or 18 kids on an average day in the weight room, and even toward the end there was more like 12 kids in the weight room, you know, we have been pulling a steady 25 to 30 kids every day. So that's really, I've been really happy about that. And also, you know, when the kids start to see the results in their bench, in their power clean, in their deadlifts, then that makes them want to come back, you know, into the weight room. We have a lot of younger kids. We have a lot of sophomores and a lot of freshmen, and they've been really excited about seeing themselves get stronger, because these are younger kids. They're 16, they're 15 years old, and they really haven't had an organized strength and conditioning program up until now. So I would say on a whole, they have responded very, very positively to what we're trying to put in front of them.
And finally, Coach, besides being big and strong, how much does inner strength and mental toughness play into what you're trying to do?
I'm going to have to go back to some of my military experience on this one. You know, whenever I first got hired here, you know, one of the things that me and Coach talked about was the fact that I spent, you know, almost 9 years in the Marine Corps, and you know, and through that time, you learn a lot about motivation, both self-motivation and also about motivating other people. So one of the things that I think is very important is being not only a motivational leader as a coach, but also, you know, motivating kids to get over some things that sometimes they have a hard time getting over. You know, again, looking at our first 4 weeks, especially for the seniors, that's really, really hard motivation-wise. So, you know, when they come out and then, you know, we start back Monday morning, you know, we start back in here, and a lot of times they come in and their motivation's a little bit low, so you really have to pick them up. I'm a very motivational coach, or I like to think of myself as a very motivational coach, both in the weight room and on the field. You know, I'm not really that, you know, typical coach that's going to be out there screaming and yelling. I'm more, you know, looking into the positive and building some people up. You know, but one thing that we have to remember, and especially, you know, through the years, I've learned both in youth and here at the post-secondary level, it's very hard to coach what we call in coaching heart. You know, a lot of kids have natural motivation. They have that natural heart. They have that will to win, that desire. But there's a lot of kids that come to us, you know, especially after 4 games, and you know, Charleroi throughout the year, the last few years has not had winning records. So we have a lot of kids that don't understand how to win. We have a lot of kids that don't have that natural heart. You know, they want to come out and play football. They want to do good, but at the same time, they don't have that desire, that overwhelming urge to go out and just win at all costs. So, you know, we as coaches are one of our responsibilities is to try to instill a little bit of that. We try to use words like do, and you know, we try to get rid of the word try. You know, we do things that kind of build them up in ways that you know, they might not have known they could be built up in. And one of the things that we do in our conditioning, to kind of go from the strength end to the conditioning end, one of the things we like to do in conditioning is we want to push them farther than they think they can go. We do 10 or 15 minutes of conditioning every day. And, you know, like in the Marine Corps where, you know, you might be out and doing PT for an hour and, you know, there's guys crying and whatnot because they don't think they can go that far. I mean, obviously we don't go to that extreme, but we want to push them past the point where they just want to give up. And whenever they get to that point and they're walking off the field and they come up and say, "Coach, man, that was great. You know, I didn't know that I could do that. I didn't know I could run 16 100s. I didn't know I could do PT and, you know, some different things for you know, 15 or 20 minutes." That instills that little bit of motivation in them, and we kind of plant that seed, and then that seed can flourish, you know, in their football careers, whether they play high school and then that's it, or whether they want to go on to college. Without that seed in them, without that self-motivation, it's very hard for them to go beyond where they're at right now. All right, so what we're going to do now is we're going to give you a quick tour of the Charleroi Cougars weight training facility. So go ahead and come on in, and we'll go ahead and take a quick walk through. Again, this facility is 2 years old. It was actually opened officially last year. We didn't have a lot of equipment to start the year off, so a lot of our equipment has been used equipment from the older stadium and also from the high school. But basically what we have here is we have our deadlift and power clean area here, also snatch area. We have a jammer rack over here, which is very good for our linemen. We have, of course, we have our standard flat benches over here. We have our squat racks. We also do military press. We also can do some variations of squats in here. Over here we have some more of our squat racks, and we have some of our dumbbell weights here, which the kids use a lot. Again, we do some variations of some things with those. So again, we're basically building as we go. Coach Jenkins has gotten us a lot of newer equipment. This bench, for example, and as we go along through this season and moving into next season, we will be, trying to get some more newer equipment and trying to get some better equipment in here for the kids to really be able to have them move on and up in what they're doing with their weight training and their conditioning. All right, well, just to introduce you to two of our bigger guys here, Zach Blystone and Brandon Bowman. What they're going to do now is they're just going to do just a standard flat bench, just to kind of show you one of the core lifts that we do. We do a number of different core lifts, flat bench being one of them. We also do squats, we also do power cleans, and we do some other things mixed in there, military presses for upper body, and obviously squats and deadlifts and stuff like that for lower body. So go ahead, guys, let's go ahead and get a good lift in here. We always like to have a good spot behind them, especially on the bench press. As you can see, he's using good form. He's keeping his butt down on the bench, which we like to see. Straight up, straight down with the weight. You got a good spot on the back. Go ahead, Murph, take a turn in there. Yeah, pound it out. We like these guys to stay motivated and move a lot of weight in here. And these guys help a lot of the younger guys as they're moving weight around. A lot of the younger guys can look at these guys as kind of role models. So that's a good bench press. All right, and then here's another one of our lifts we do as a military press. Murph's going to show you some good form on a military press, again with the good spot. This particular exercise here is very good for building up the whole upper half of your body. Shoulders, traps, neck, triceps, and your back also. You can see very good form. He's not using his legs. Good stability, has a good spot. Good job, Murph. So there you go. Just a little bit of the Charleroi Cougars weight room, weight facilities with two of my bigger guys here. Again, thank you very much, Brandon and Zach.
That's our show for this week. I'd like to thank Coach Greg Levander for joining us and showing us an inside look at the Cougars' preparation for the game at Deer Lakes. Tune in next week and go Cougars.